Hi, and welcome back to the Swimpros news. It is edition 28. It is super hot here in Switzerland. Stay hydrated, my friends. Please do. The game plan for today, as you can see, I'm alone, sadly, or maybe not so sadly, because Yul is on his way to Mallorca for the summer taper camp, which is basically for, it's for teenagers, competitive swimmers, been in the game for a while, and have a big end of summer competition, and wanted to prepare with Swimpros. We did it over Easter, and the results were pretty wild. So we said we're going to do it again. It's a smaller camp, which leaves me home here with the family. Two things I want to talk about today. First one is a quick repetition of what we looked at. I think it was about 2 weeks ago in the academy training, because now it's a hot season, right? There's going to be for most of the swimmers, there's going to be a big end of summer competition, and then they're going to go on holidays and stuff, family time, and just be off for a little bit. Maybe they come to one of our summer camps, maybe not. So there's going to be a few weeks off, which is great, but that makes it even more important that ideally they finish on a high note, right? Because in swimming, it's not like from January 1st to December 31st, the season is really from summer to summer. And so the end of summer competition is a big one. And so, yeah, there's pressure. There's probably some expectations and stuff. And we've been working hard in long course. And now we want to show what we got. And so how to handle that, we'll talk about that first, which is a bit of repetition for people who are in the academy. And if you're not in the academy or not even in a school group, let me show you. You can join for free here. It's school.com/mindgympro. I'll leave that there. So hopefully it's going to be valuable. It's going to take me about maybe 5 minutes to cover, maybe 10 if I get super excited about it. And then I have a little gift for you guys, and in form of a giveaway. It's a PDF that I created, and it's a little parent guide on what you can do when your kid seems to lose some motivation, when things aren't going well, when they're, sometimes things just go really well and everything is awesome and they're riding that wave of momentum. But then this is how life works, right? You have momentum, but you have the opposite, which is maybe standing kind of stillish or even moving backwards. It's part of the journey. And I think one of the main kind of educational points that I'm trying to get across to people who are in competitive swimming is that, you picked a difficult sport as a swimmer, but then also for the family, because there's going to be a lot of driving. You're going to make quite some financial investments into the kid. It's a lot of time that you might be waiting around in the pool. So it takes a whole family for a swimmer to be successful, and a good team, of course. And what I know with 100% certainty is that no matter how a swimmer starts out, maybe they go from competition to competition and they just PB and PB and they win and they win and they win. At some point in their life, in everybody's life, there's going to be a point where they're going to be massively disappointed and frustrated and maybe sad. And so it's not just going to happen once. It's going to happen again and again and again and again. And so one of the things that I'd like everybody to know is that there will be difficult moments, and there will be a lot of them. And so it's not about not having those difficult moments. It's about knowing how to respond when they happen, and that they can respond when they happen. That it doesn't just, that they're not a victim. And through that, they will actually learn a lot more through and with their disappointments and their frustrations and their sadness and the tears than they ever will by winning another medal or getting another PB, right? And so if they seem to lose motivation, we need to figure out why, and then based on that, we can handle it in different ways. And so I have what I call an SOP, standard operating procedure, but it's really just a guide that I'll show you in a second when we're done with the first thing, and I'll tell you where you can get it. Well, the link is already there. Okay, so first thing, the pressure for the big end of summer competition. So when we ask swimmers, where's the pressure come from? What are you afraid of? 95% of them will say to disappoint, to not reach their goals, to disappoint themselves, maybe their parents, maybe the coach, Sometimes there's even other people, like grandparents or just somebody that means a lot to them. So they're afraid to fail because they're going to have a bad time, right? In other words, that they're just not going to be able to show what they know that they can really do. That's what they're afraid of, to not show what their potential is at that point in time. So now, here's what we need to do. We need to redefine what failure means. And so when we were working with the swimmers in the academy, we had them come up with a different definition of what failing means. And then later I gave them what I think is the best definition of what failure is. And then all of them, I think I remember, it's like all 50, the 50 that were on the call, wanted to adapt that particular definition that I gave them. I didn't make them. I asked them, hey, would that be the most empowering? And they all said yes, and they adapted it. And so when you're thinking about it this way, before I tell you the definition or share with you the definition, I'm not saying this is it and you have to take that on board, but it's proven to work really well. So we're here right now. They have the big competition here. And one or two things is going to happen. The first thing that can happen is that they swim really well, they crush it. And, well, I guess there's three things that can happen. But really, like, to keep it simple, there's two. One, they swim really well, they get what they wanted, and life is good, and they're gonna go on holiday, and they're gonna come back next season. The other thing that can happen is that they don't do well, and they're disappointed, and life goes on, they're gonna go on holiday, and they're gonna come back next season, most likely. Okay? But the reframe is this. We're here. Here's the outcome. And whatever is going to happen in that big competition, it's going to be what? It's going to be good. Because either they get what they want, great. And if they don't get what they want, it's even greater, because then they will learn. Especially if they have somebody in the corner to like digest that with them and kind of go through a process of how do you actually leverage that failure so that it does become very valuable for your life. Make sense? Because if you're just, well, not failure, wrong word. If you don't get what you want, right? And then we must, when they're having the tears and when they're so frustrated and they're questioning everything and they start to like worry and stuff, we must use that energy to transform that into something good. And that requires a process that somebody has to take them through so that those emotions that they're having that are unpleasant to witness, especially as a parent, we must use it, right? So the worst that we could do is just like, oh, next season is going to be better, and then just not do anything about it and not learn the lesson. And then next season is not going to get better. It's probably going to get worse. Okay. So what we need to do, we need to see that either one is going to be good. And if you don't believe me, just listen to any successful athlete in the world. They will all, and business people and artists and just people who do awesome stuff in the world, they will all tell you that they failed often, and they also failed early, and after a point they were no longer afraid of failing. Failing meaning not getting the thing that they want in the timeline that they had in mind. Okay? So we must, that's the first thing. Whatever's going to happen is going to be good. You win or you learn. Both are good. Learning is actually better. Cool. Now the second thing is, so what's failure then? What's the definition of failure? It has to be something that is in their control, because what the outcome is going to be, it is not directly in their control. There's a couple steps, obviously there's a lot of steps that they have to take to eventually be successful and get what they want, but really it's so far out they cannot control that right now, because the only thing we can control is what we can control right now. So that means then we need to have a definition around failure that is in their control. And the definition is, you only fail if you A, don't try, or B, if you give up. And so you fail when you don't try, and when you give up. And that is 100% in their control, and that's what they can then focus on, to try, to give it everything they have, and to not give up no matter what happens. And that is a very empowering definition, because they can control it. And then I tell them, don't fail. Make yourself proud, because no matter what the outcome is going to be, if you have a long enough time horizon, it's going to be good. And so all you focus on is on trying and not giving up. And if we can do that in life, that's the best that we can do anyway. If it doesn't work out, maybe the skills just weren't there, and that's okay, right? But if we can consistently learn in high pressure situations and anywhere else, to be honest, also in life, in school, with friends, to just try our best and to not give up if something doesn't go according to plan, we are going to be in a very, very good place, and we're going to be able to do things that maybe not even 1% of the population can do. And that is the opportunity, right? How blessed they are to use competitive swimming, a game, a sport, to develop this beautiful quality, okay? So that's why we love competitive swimming. Cool. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk to you about is the guide. So what do you do when a swimmer loses the love for training? Look, you have to ask yourself, why is that? And literally almost okay, it could be the coach that they don't like. It could be the team that they don't like. They're not getting along or whatever. So those are like relationship things. But then if the coach is all right, and if the team is all right, then the only thing that we're left with is that it's not going well in swimming, or it's not going well enough to the point where they feel like they're starting to have questions about, hey, is it still worth it? And so maybe there's alternatives, other things that they could do. Maybe there's an instrument they want to play. Maybe they have another hobby. Maybe they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whatever. There's other things that seem to become more attractive, and swimming is less attractive because it's not super exciting. And usually that's because they're not getting the results that they secretly wish for. You know, maybe they're not saying it out loud, but really, if they were like super excited about swimming and how it's going, like, why would you quit, right? It's usually when things do not progress and maybe even work when it goes backwards. So that's important to understand, because we have to have the kid actually express that and start to, and sometimes they're not even sure why, or they haven't never thought about, hey, why do I not enjoy it? And we have to like help them articulate in a kind of in a way that it makes sense, so that we understand. And I always tell the kids, for you to be successful in swimming, you're going to have like a dream team of people. You're going to have your family who support you logistically and otherwise, and then you have your coach and you have your team and maybe some other people who help you, like us or massage therapists or like whatever. So, and you know that, but when you listen to interviews, for example, of very successful athletes, what do? They always, or most of the time, they like thank their team and their wife and, you know, whoever's involved, right? They express their gratitude. So we need these people, and we need to know what you're going through, is what I'm trying to say. So if somebody comes to me, I'm happy to be involved, because that's the kind of stuff that I like more than just, you know, the performance thing where you just, oh, come on, PB, because we've done that so many times. These are the more subtle kind of conversations, and I love it so much. But the adults around the kid, around the swimmer, need to know what the swimmer is actually going through, right? So in a way, the swimmer has to learn to open up and become a bit vulnerable and speak the truth. It doesn't mean that the kid or the swimmer wants to quit swimming immediately, or that they don't actually love the water anymore. It's just that it's not going the way they want to, and that is important that they're able to express that. So it's always, they need to find somebody that they feel safe to open up to. And you know, when I quit swimming, when I was done, I wanted to go another 4 years after the Olympics, but then I was back in Switzerland, and it just wasn't the same, like not nearly the same what it was in America. In America, it was all about the team, and people held each other accountable. There's so much energy in at the pool and the weight room and everything, and I loved it, and we were best friends and all that. And then in Switzerland, it was very different. It was like more an individual sport again, and it was back to what I knew when I was younger and what I ran away from. So I, on a Friday, we jump in the pool 4:00, right, in the evening. And for that, like, you know, it was summertime, I think. And I'm swimming, and after 6, and I'm looking at the floor, and I'm thinking, and I've had the thoughts all the last 2 weeks, and I was constantly thinking, you know, what am I doing here? I'm not enjoying it anymore and stuff. And After 600 meters, I'm like, okay, this is it. And I got out of the pool. I told my coach, hey man, I'm done with swimming. And I left. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm going to have to tell my parents, right? So I did not talk to my parents or like even consider talking to them about being done with swimming, calling it a day. I just made the decision, but I was older, right? I made the decision and then called them later. Obviously, they were like super disappointed and stuff, but it was the right move. You know, the swim had a really good career, ended it on a high note. And so, but what I'm saying is the swimmer needs to speak to adults, right? The adults that they trust so that we can come up with a game plan together. And so let me show you real quick what I got for you here. I have this pretty cool file. So it's a PDF that you can download. And you see, so when your swimmer loses the love for training, a short letter to the supportive and loving parents in the stands on how to help your child fall back fall in love with the sport, especially after change of coach or a tough stretch. In the guide, why the spark fades and why it's rarely about losing the love for the swimming. The 7 calm steps to help them fall back in love with training and competition, by the way, and exactly what to say at home. Well, it's not exactly, but it gives you a good idea, and then use your intuition, right? Because you know your kid best, and then how to have that conversation, but what to say at home to the coach. And then the good pain versus the bad pain. So you know when to push and when to pause. And then it's just like 3 pages with all the stuff. And if you want that, you can get it in the school group. Okay, I will post that after we're done here. I'm going to post this in the school group so that you can download it there. Make sense? One thing that's worth talking about, maybe 2 minutes. On camp, we've learned something that we need to teach the swimmers, even the elite, at the very beginning of the camp. Because while we're not doing a lot of kilometers, we do train hard, high intensity stuff that actually moves the needle for them, because we think they can do the kilometers at home with the club, and a lot of coaches do a pretty good job in doing kilometers, but there's not enough hard stuff and pace stuff, and for the sprinters like sprint and lactic acid sets and stuff. So we train pretty hard, and one of the things we do, obviously they get the recovery shakes after each training. We just ship 300 kilos of protein and maltodextrin, which is carbs, to Tenerife for all the swimmers, for all the, it's 130, right? Crazy. In all of August. So there's a good supply there. But we also teach them about good pain versus bad pain. So what's bad pain? And we have that concept from Milo Racovic, one of the world record holders who's coaching on camp. He's there the entire month. And we loved when he explained that. Is the bad pain is when the shoulder hurts really bad. It's so a tendon, maybe not the muscle, but a tendon. If somebody has back pain, if they have a headache, if they can barely breathe, right? Those kind of things is what we call bad pain. And why is it bad pain? Because potentially that could lead to an injury, or maybe even like worse, who knows? So bad pain. And then the good pain is what we competitive swimmers signed up for. Because if you haven't thought about it yet, let's think about it now. If you want to become better at competitive swimming, then you have to. There's no other way. If you want to consistently get better at competitive swimming, you need to go through physical pain. The good kind of pain, which is lactic acid burning in your legs. It's your heart feels like it's exploding. It's holding your air when you're doing underwater, is coming up like, right? Those are like the 10 100's best average to push through when number 7 and 8, 9, and 10 come around. And so that is the good pain. Because if the body doesn't have a reason to adjust, it will not adjust, because there's no reason for it. And so we have to, by training, create reasons for the body to be like, oh shit, he just swam a set that he's never done before like that, and I'm totally exhausted. I better adjust to that new level of what he just showed today, right? And then it will adjust. And maybe first the body will likely be very tired, but then it will come back stronger. And so that is what I mean by good physical pain. We signed up for it. And so we're better off. We cannot be afraid of physical pain in training. Because if we are, we're never going to reach our full potential, because it's a prerequisite for competitive swimming. It's probably true for all sports, not chess, right? You can be a very good chess player and not go through any kind of physical pain, I believe. In swimming, that I can guarantee you with 100% certainty, it's not going to work. And so that's why it's in the guide as well, is how do you actually learn to love the good pain, and how can you differentiate that from the bad pain, because that is the one you absolutely have to speak up. We see it way too many times, and that's why we speak this out loud in camp multiple times, is that if you just suspect that you're in bad kind of pain, you come to us, you get out of the pool, and you let us know so we can look at it and we can start to deal with it. Because some kids are so afraid to speak up, and whether maybe they have like a real Eastern European hard-ass coach who's always yelling and they're afraid, or maybe they just don't think it's important, and because they have such low self-esteem. It depends. But it's very important that we don't mean the bad pain. If you have shoulder problems, and the people that come to camp, they know you come to us and we'll try to help you resolve the issue and do everything that we can, and you're not going back in the water until you say it's better. But the good pain is different, and the good pain is you can't be, you gotta be tough. But you're so much better off if you actually love. If you find a way, and maybe it's love and hate, it doesn't matter, but if you can build a relationship to the good pain where you secretly enjoy it, and maybe even publicly enjoy it. Some people do, right? But there's a lot that enjoy it in secret, because they know right now when they're at the brink of exhaustion, it's when the orange light in the tank in the car comes on. The body will say stop, but it's not the end, because you can go quite for some time like in the car. It's just the body that tells you to, okay, this is enough. And in that moment, if you can be greater than your body with your mind, and you can find pleasure in that, because most people are getting slower now. They're going to back away from the challenge, whereas okay, I'm right there where I'm going to get better. So I'm going to push through right now. You will shatter the glass ceiling of what the body thought it was capable of, and the body will adjust and get better, right? That's the good pain. And so that's in the guide as well. So if you want it, I hope that was useful. If you want it, check again in like 2 hours maybe. I got a couple calls now, but in 2 hours that post should be up in the school group. And other than, I have nothing else. There's 3 spots for the junior camp left. So the elite camps are all sold out, but for August 4 to 14, there are 3 spots left for the junior camp. That's ages 8 to 12, unless they're 12 and they're super, super fast, then they would be a better fit for elite. But if you know somebody who would love to come as a family, because it's non-residential for the juniors, meaning that the kids stay with their parents. If you know somebody, please give them my WhatsApp number if you have it, or my email is just david@swimpros.com, and I'm happy to have a chat with them and see if they're a good fit. And I will see you next week. Next week we're gonna do Swimpros news from Mallorca. Well, I'm gonna be here, but Yule's gonna be live with the people in Mallorca. So I'll see you next week.